We have new cycles starting in all of our TTT athlete programs starting on October 24th. To get a full cycle overview plus a free sample week, go to trainingthinktank.com. I was talking to Jordan about this the other day. I'm like, when we were like in college, I'd look at a 35-year-old and be like, ugh, like they're so old. And now it's like,
we're horrible people, yeah.
Things change rapidly in this world.
I know.
So we have lovely Becky and Tracy on today to talk about nutrition. They head up all of our nutrition on site and then obviously remote. Before we kind of got into it, I wanted to let the audience know a little bit more about what you guys do with the remote business, because it's just a shameless pitch here for what you guys are doing. But you guys have a remote nutrition side of the business where essentially you will take athletes on. So kind of give me a rundown and then we'll dive into the discussion.
You want to go?
Sure. Yeah. We actually just implemented a new tier system, which is really nice because I think we'll be able to reach more people in that way. So the first tier is called All-In Nutrition Coaching. So this, you get a 20-minute phone call with one of us. You get a follow-up email about everything we talked about and kind of like your to-do list for the week. And then you get access to your coach, full access via text and email within their office hours. So that's tier 1. Tier 2 is need some nutrition coaching. So this is like a weekly check-in via email for those that might not need as hands-on approach. So especially people that have been doing this a long time, a lot of like athletes in the space, this is great for them to just check in with someone, making sure they're like on track for their goals for the season. You don't get the access via text and email, but you get that email check-in once a week. And then there's as needed nutrition coaching, which is our third tier, which is just a nutrition consult for 30 minutes about a topic that you have in mind. And we send you an email to recap everything we talked about and any additional resources you may need. Regardless if you want to go into tier 1 or tier 2, you definitely have to do our initial consult first so we can better like assign you with the right coach and make sure that we have everything good to go to get started for you.
I wonder how, as an athlete, you've kind of figured out what you need though, right? Like, is it, hey, I have no clue at all, and so I really need to dive deep with the coach? Or is it more like, should I start at the kind of basic level and just get a feel for what, maybe I can do this myself? Like that's always the question I think the athletes have.
Yeah, I mean, our nutrition service is just like programming, right? It is completely individual. So we start with where you're comfortable, and we might have ideas of where you need to be, but we're not going to shove you there in the first week. So it's just baby steps, and we're all about slow, sustainable habit changes, which is something I think people don't realize so much. Nutrition is all about habits and behaviors that you've done your whole entire life, and then you try to change this. It's not like you're going to do it in a week and be fine. So we try to meet everybody where they're at and then guide them to where we want them to be. And it's, if somebody doesn't want to weigh and measure, we don't do that. If somebody wants to be all about it and carry the food scale with them, we'll do it that way. But there's so many ways to progress, and we want to just make a system that fits the athlete's life, not more stress, because you already got training stress and life stress and work stress.
Plenty of those
things,
things,
make
right?
food easy. That's what we want to do.
That's kind of where I want to start is the habit side, or maybe just the emotional side of eating, because I feel like the nutrition industry in general has become, or always has been, a gimmick industry because we play on the person's emotions. And I'm not saying that that's a good or bad thing. I'm just saying in general, we always are bought into certain things by emotion first and then logic later on, And with food, it's very easy to dive in and be like, I'm going to be really strict this month. And then all of a sudden you see that, for me, pumpkin bread, and I'm going to eat a little bit of this, and then one day becomes 2 days, becomes 3 days, and then all of a sudden you're back in those bad habits. It's really hard to change any habit, but especially when it comes to food, because of all of the neuromodulators in your brain that are, the dopamine rush and all those things that go with it. So where do you start with that with an athlete? Like, how do you identify the emotional connection to food, and then how are you trying to almost like change their course of how they understand what they're doing when they're eating?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes they don't even realize it, right? Snacking at night, I feel like, is a big one. I want to stop snacking at night. And
it's so good though, right?
Yeah, I just need the willpower, which it's not about willpower. It's just when you were younger and you had dessert after dinner, and then you did that every day for years. Like, that's just what your brain expects, right? Or I think people don't realize, like you said, the emotional side of it, and how if you're tired or lonely or bored or stressed out, we turn to food kind of as our comfort. And I think the first step that we try to do is just to get people to recognize, like, this is what you're doing. And once they recognize it, I think that's when, like, the magic happens, because you can't change a behavior you don't know that you're doing. So what we usually do, and we do this with our phone call check-in, it's really good. You know, that's why we like to do phone call check-ins, is because we can talk about that kind of stuff and really ask, well, why are you doing this? What was yesterday like? What was the week before like? Let's really dive into what you're doing and why it's happening. And then from that point on, they can kind of start to predict when things are going to go like that again. And then that's like awesome. Like I feel like that's where success in nutrition is recognizing your habits and then being able to predict when you're going to do a behavior you want to change. And then we start working on, like, all right, well, how do we want to change it?
Yeah. Well, the reason I said the gimmick thing is, you see, so like, okay, we had Atkins diet back in the early 2000s, and then it became something else. And, you know, now there's like the keto fad and which is kind of similar to Atkins, I guess. But all of these different things so let's say someone does get rid of, like, or they recognize the emotional state that they're in when they're binge eating or doing, maybe eating not enough, whatever it may be for the person. But then they buy into these different systems. Like, is there a specific system that you guys adhere to? Is there something? How do you communicate that with an athlete if someone comes to you and says, I listened to Joe Rogan today and I want to be on the carnivore diet? You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is a good topic, because I feel like we get that a lot. Like, everyone wants to know our opinions on certain fad diets and whatnot. And if I have a client coming to me wanting to try something new, I always just give them options, right? Like, we can try your way, and I'll make sure you do it in a safe and, like, protective environment, right? Or we can try it my way, and you're probably not going to listen and not want to do it. And then I give them the last option, which usually we can get to a good place with, is like compromising, right? So maybe they want to try intermittent fasting, and I don't think at the time it's best for them. I'll say, okay, maybe we put a time on your food intake, but it doesn't look like a complete, like, intermittent fast, just to kind of be like meet in the middle. And then they get to try it. They're happy they tried it. And then either it works or it doesn't. And we can have like takeaways from the experiment. You know what I mean? Sure.
What kind of athlete would you allow to do that? Let's say I came to you and I was like, you know what, I listened, here we go again. I listened to Joe Rogan, and he had Dr. Rhonda Patrick on, and she talked about how successful intermittent fasting is, because I've heard people say this, right? And I tried it for 2 days, and the first day sucked, but then the second day my mind was so clear and I felt good and I actually trained okay. What say you? Like, is that okay, Coach Tracy or Coach Becky? Or, like, how do you define that for the athlete?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to, there's so many ways to measure progress, right? So training performance is one, and scale weight is another that everybody thinks about. But we talk about hunger in the morning and hunger in the evening, and did you sleep okay, and what are your energy levels like? And you have to take all of that into consideration when you help somebody decide how to eat. And if everything feels good, then let's roll with it. That's fine. I think eventually things won't feel so good, but we just wait, right? It's like with our kids. You can tell them over and over, you're going to fall if you do that. But they have to fall, and then they learn. So it's kind of with our clients too. We want
and then
them,
they blame me.
Right? Yeah.
That's right.
Like, hopefully not us, but we want them to experience it, because that's kind of what we did, was like, sure. I tried paleo and zone diet, remember that? And like all this other everything. And you just kind of come around to something that works for you. And we can say over and over, this is the best way to do it. But until they experience it, and like Tracy said, we help them experience it. So they're not just like out there trying things. You can't try something for 2 days, whether it's going to work or not. Like, let's do it for a little bit, and then you can make an informed decision. So that's kind of how it is. We want them to feel like at the end of all of this, they can do it on their own. We don't want them to need us for forever. We would love to be in part of their lives, but also we want to teach them too, so they can figure it out on their own.
For sure. I want to actually kind of like have a strategy here, because I have some questions for you guys. And I think the end of the podcast, I want to kind of leave it with, I brought this up at the beginning, but we are kind of getting close to that holiday season. So I want to talk about, like, what are some, true objective or maybe just like actionable tips that the people can take with them into, let's say, here in the U.S., Thanksgiving all the way through Christmas. But before we get there, in my mind, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, there's kind of like two types of people.
You skipping Halloween, bro?
Halloween
That's
is true.
where it starts.
That is true. The candy corn and the peeps, whatever you like. I don't remember what you said last
I
time.
hate peeps. Peeps are Easter.
Oh, are they?
Oh, they are.
Oh, yeah, they are.
Whatever.
Whatever. You know what Adam likes is those Reese's eggs. That's like,
how could you not like those?
that's Easter too, though. But
Yeah, I'd rather just have a regular Reese's.
There's
think.
like 4
Yeah.
grams of
no,
protein in
there's
the
more
egg, though.
peanut butter in
Yeah.
the egg
they're
version.
yes.
Yeah, they're not
Yeah.
bad. Any kind of like Buckeye style, right? That's like chocolate with peanut butter in the middle. It's
Yeah,
good.
mine is Snickers. That's
Oh,
my
Snickers
thing.
are good too. But that's also, it has peanuts in it.
Yeah.
Anything with peanuts, I could do. for
Can't
sure.
go wrong.
Yeah. I kind of think of two different types of people that are thinking about their nutrition. Those that are on the competitive side of sports performance, right? That the CrossFit athlete that comes in, this is usually, I'm sure, what you guys deal with the most. I want to make the CrossFit games. I want to make quarterfinals. I want to make a semifinal, whatever their goal is. Or maybe it's just like, hey, look, I want to do CrossFit and I'm too heavy right now, or I'm too weak, or whatever. And then the other side is like, maybe it is the soccer mom or the person that was doing CrossFit or doing a sport but no longer is, and they just want to stay healthy. I want to look good, I want to feel good, and right now my eating is out of control. So let's start with those people. The person that's not competitive, when they come to you, like, are there differences between the conversation you have with someone that just wants to look and feel good and the athlete that wants to perform at a high level in whatever sport they may be in?
Yeah, I think, well, we can talk about differences, but I think one similarity is most people don't eat enough, period. And
I think that's probably crazy for most people listening.
yeah, I know.
Right?
People think I have to eat less to lose weight, but at some point you just can't keep doing that. So I
Right.
think for both of them, it's kind of a conversation about amounts, but probably different ways to quantify food, you know?
Yeah, and I think when we like do our weekly check-ins, the questions we ask may differ in the sense with a competitive athlete, I'm probably going to ask them way more about their training. How's your sleep? How are you feeling in your sessions? Is the food around your sessions appropriate? Are you timing your food appropriately? We're still going to touch base on that, but I'm not going to ask them as extensively with a Gen Pop person about their training. I'm just going to make sure, are you getting your movement in on a regular basis?
Yeah.
You know?
For sure. How important is that? How important are you still coaching the person up of like, hey, look, we can eat well, but you still need to be thinking about the other things you're doing in your life. Like you can't sit at the desk for 10 hours a day and then expect
sure.
like everything to be okay in your life.
Yeah, it's not just nutrition, it's lifestyle, because everything that you do in your day is gonna set you up for success with food. You know, if you're not sleeping enough, you're gonna be too tired to make food, and you're gonna have that tendency to want to snack at night. And if you're going from one thing to the next, you're not gonna have time to sit down and let your food digest whenever you eat. So I think the general population people need more of everything, right? Life, stress, sleep, work, family, all of it. The athletes were kind of like, this is part of your job, so you don't really have as much wiggle room, right? You need to hit these numbers so that you can train hard. But the soccer mom, if she had a kid that's sick and then this and that, it's like, all right, you might need to not stress out so much about XYZ. Just make sure you get your protein in, right? Like that's kind of how it's like stress management, crisis management, almost with those.
It goes back to those habits, right?
Yeah.
Like we're slowly trying to change the habits. That's actually a good question because I deal with this, right? I'm sure, Becky, you've done the same thing. You have kids and you're trying to feed them. And it's like, okay, they're only going to eat these few things unless you're an awesome parent out there. Maybe you can get them to eat whatever. But we can't do that.
Teach me how to do that.
Exactly. So, you and I maybe, or those other parents that can empathize with us, we're rushing to get them food before they go to their, like we got a T-ball game tonight. And so we got to get them food and then go to T-ball. And it's like, when do I have the opportunity to eat? Like, how do I manage that? How are you communicating that with your general population people?
Yeah, I think for those people, it's finding a balance, right? You want your kids to eat healthy. I hate the label healthy, but you guys know what I mean when I say that. We talk about it with our kids, like you need protein so you have strong muscles, and you need carbohydrates so that you have energy, and then you also need some colorful things, which is the hardest part, right? The greens and the oranges and the reds, like just to have enough minerals. We talk about that kind of stuff, vitamins and minerals, but it's also not super easy, right? So you just kind of have to decide what is good enough for you.
Yeah.
You know, some days it's my kids get Chick-fil-A, but I made my ground turkey and vegetables. Like, we're eating, it's all right. And just being realistic about your situation, I think, is a big thing. I think people expect to be perfect and they expect it to be easy, and it's really hard. And another successful tool when you deal with nutrition is you have to be okay with messing up. Because you're going to mess up, right? You're going to mess up, and don't feel guilty. Don't feel like the day is wasted. You just get back on track when you can.
Yeah, I feel like it's the same thing we've talked about in this podcast when we're talking about athletes and expectations. Like, everyone sets these expectations that are so high, and whether that's a good or a bad thing, if you miss those, they ruin everything else in your life. It's like, I can't believe I wasn't able to do this. And then you're like back on this road to shame constantly, as opposed to just being like, okay, I made a mistake. How can we change this? You know, always learning from the missed expectations as opposed to like beating yourself because of it.
Yeah, that's how, right? Any competition, food, you messed up, but if you learn from it, it was a win, you know? Like, you just have to keep evolving and growing.
And I think when you mess up like that, it's like part of the process, and it's going to keep you in the game longer instead of trying to be perfect for months at a time. You almost need those to like grow and learn and continue like staying in the game, right?
Yeah. You talked about you don't like putting labels of healthy, and this is going off topic a little bit, but I'm interested.
I will rant about this.
Yeah. So we hear that all the time, right? And part of this is like, you know, maybe there are some things that are healthy and unhealthy, but also the thing that concerns me about that is we allow either the government or these major food industries to dictate what is quote unquote healthy and unhealthy. And we found over the years, like if you can look up the whole General Mills issue back in the, you know, with the food pyramid and how they funded that and put grains at the bottom and all these other things that are probably twisted a little bit, you know, like cronyism in the government that's allowed that to happen. How do you define then healthy and unhealthy? And then how do you choose when someone else is telling you that this is healthy or unhealthy?
You want to go first and then I'll go?
Sure. Yeah. I feel like I probably just take a more general approach and try to have more like balance with things. So when I'm talking to people about food quality, we talk about how important that is and like why we need it and what should be in a meal to make it like a well-balanced meal. But I feel like more often than not, I'm like trying to reel people back and like people are worried like, if I have green beans with dinner, is it okay if they're from a can or a bag? And I'm like, you're putting green beans on your plate. Like, this is a win, you know? Yeah.
Step one here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like before we try to like jump all of the other steps, let's just like focus on having enough of the right things.
Sure.
You know, I think I work with maybe like a handful of people that can even handle like doing the deep dive into certain nutrients and how much of what, whereas like most of the time I'm just trying to make sure people have like a decent amount of like unprocessed foods. But I think depending on like who you're working with, like in our space, I think some CrossFit athletes could get away with having a little more processed food.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably wild for people to hear, but it's so true. Like, you have to eat so much that if you just give yourself a little bit, it may help your digestion. You may hit your calories a little bit faster, right? So as long as everything is in moderation, I think you're okay.
Yeah. I'm assuming that there are some people that probably could make like the cold turkey move, right? Like they could just go completely like, this is exactly how I'm going to do it. And I've always been very disciplined like that. So I say that for those that are out there, like, no, I like the structure. Like, I think that's okay, but most people don't. Most people can't handle the structure because there are other things going on in life.
I mean, I phrase it as, what do you need to do to reach your goals?
Yes.
Right? So athletes, I have some people who eat over 500 grams of carbs every day. Yeah. And you cannot do that with broccoli. Like, clean eating, you can't do that.
Oh,
so
that would
eat
be
a
so
Pop-Tart,
awful.
have
You'd be
some
farting so hard.
Right?
It
No,
would
have
smell
some
so bad.
frosted flakes. Like, nothing is bad as long as you frame it as, is this helping me reach my goal, and is it not like messing up my stomach, right? If you feel foggy headed or your digestion is a little wonky or like you just don't feel good eating it, don't eat it. But there's not like this magical clean eating formula. And then my non-athlete population, they are usually the ones that want to look a certain way. So then we talk about, well, you can eat carbs in the form of a Pop-Tart, or you can eat carbs in the form of broccoli, which is bigger, which will make you feel full longer. So that's how you reach your goals, is to eat food
Not
that
the
helps.
Pop-Tart.
Not the.
Well-
you can eat the Pop-Tart, but think about you're going to be hungry after you.
That's
want
what I was
a
gonna say.
And it's like
Pop-Tart.
half the calories
Yeah,
for the day.
and then
How
eat
much
that
is a
broccoli.
Pop-Tart?
Right. Oh, I don't.
the
I think
double-
the package of 2
I-
is like 200 calories.
I
or
could eat an
400.
entire package of the packages.
Right?
Right.
And like ice cream, right? Ice cream, you didn't even know you eat it.
I
You
know.
can eat right after. So it's you're an adult, you make these decisions, but also know how you feel after you eat the food that you eat. And is that really helping you get the body that you want or the performance that you want, and just kind of continuing to make those little modifications.
You know,
as
it's not
go.
the ice cream, it's the milkshakes. Those
Yeah,
are the worst
right?
because
You
I
just
could just
drink
I don't know. I
it.
think it's the ice cream too.
It's all the same.
Isn't it like a
It's ice
pint
cream
of ice
for me.
cream?
No, no,
Yeah.
it is.
Almost
What I'm
1,000?
saying is that I could have a large milkshake from Chick-fil-A and then eat a
Eat
meal
food,
after.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
it's so because you're just like slurping
Yeah.
it down. You know, I didn't mean it as like ice cream was.
Yeah, I
it
gotcha.
wasn't calorie dense.
Yeah, it's not that it's bad. I don't want to say ice cream is bad or milkshakes are bad, but you can drink a whole milkshake and then eat a cheeseburger and fries
Yes.
and something else. When if you wouldn't have had the milkshake, probably that food would have helped you
That's
feel
why I don't
full
understand
enough
why
too.
people don't like froyo. Like, isn't it the same shit but not all the calories?
I guess it's just not as high in fat. It's like
Yeah, it doesn't taste as
Yeah.
good to me.
I
I
don't
don't know.
ah.
It's all the same.
To me, it all tastes the
Drinking
same.
calories is like you didn't eat anything, and then
No.
you want to eat more. But athletes who are over 3,000, 3,500 calories, they probably need to drink something because it's hard to eat all of that food. So anything is good and anything is bad. It just depends on what are you trying to accomplish here.
Well, let's jump to the athlete side. So you talked about general population, but obviously you guys work with a ton of athletes. We have a ton of high-level athletes, games athletes here on site, and they're training 3 sessions a day, probably 2 hours for each of those sessions. They're going hard in multiple sessions every single day of the week, and so I assume that they need a lot of calories.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think just kind of piggybacking off we were just talking about, and for these athletes, like you have to make sure you figure out what's best for you. And that's what we want to help them do, because I think a lot of times we can get caught seeing like, oh, well, my friend's doing this, but they have a completely different build, different training age, et cetera, et cetera. So we have no idea if that's appropriate for you. So we have to like start with building a base and seeing what works. And then especially for athletes, you can kind of like figure out around their training sessions, what foods work best. Does it need to be softer form? Can you have a whole meal in between sessions? Does that like, do you have to take a nap after that? Like, and figuring all those little things to make sure they can optimize each session.
Yeah. What's the difference between males and females in the space? Like, are you guys giving large prescription changes or drastic prescription changes? Let's say, you have Alexis on site, and if you're giving her nutrition advice, and Travis, they're training around the same amount, but like, are there differences there as far as what you're giving them?
I mean, guys eat more because they're bigger.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, all right, set your protein at 1 gram per pound of body weight, and fat is around here, and then I just, how many carbs can you eat?
Yeah.
Like, let's see how high we can get you. So not necessarily, like, I think just total amounts because girls are smaller, but I have some girls who can put it away.
Yeah, I'd be interested just for the audience. Like, give me a few athletes that you work with that are females in the CrossFit space, and how many, like, what's the average amount of carbs they're eating in a day?
What's Alexis at, 400?
Yeah. We just bumped her up to 450.
Meg's
450.
at like over 500.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the sweet spot for female CrossFit athletes is at least 350 or so.
Yeah.
But again, it's how much can you eat?
Sure.
If you're willing to keep, just push it. Yeah.
And I think making sure the females' protein intake is appropriate. Like, I think some females can put muscle on really easily, and some it's very challenging. So it just takes a little time to get to know that as the coach first, and finding that sweet spot. Because if they're like too far over, they can feel bloated and just like full all the time. So just finding that sweet spot for them. Because I know Becky too has worked with some higher level athletes that like they look at me and they put muscle on. So they have to have their protein like super low, right? So it's just like learning about that with each athlete.
Yeah. So how long would that take? Like, if someone comes on with you in a few weeks, couple months, like, what's the timeline for that?
Yeah, I think I do things very slowly. It's hard though, because most people don't start with us as early as they should, right?
Right.
So I have 3 months to do this, and I'm like, oh man, that
Yeah.
is not enough time. So ideally it would be slow, because again, with athletes, you want them to eat a lot, but you also don't. Weight is important to them, but I also think a lot of people don't realize a swing of 5 pounds up is probably not as detrimental as they think, right? Especially if they're training appropriately, they put on muscle, everything will feel lighter. But I don't do big increases. I mean, we're talking 50 to 100 calories a week to add. So it's very slow. But again, sometimes you don't have a choice and you kind of have to just go for it.
The good thing about working with athletes is they're like the most hypersensitive to knowing what's going on with their body. So it's like really nice when you do an increase or you make a small incremental change. There are people that are so consistent that when you make a little change like that, they're going to be able to tell you right away if it's working or not.
Yeah. Tracy, you talked about timing earlier and how that's different than the general population. Maybe it's, they're running around not training, so it's one thing. But with the athlete, Travis is in there, has a 3-hour session or something like that. What are the main tips that you would give the audience for doing a long session and how to fuel before, during, and after?
Yeah, I would definitely make sure before they have something. I'm not a huge fan of fasted work, especially if you're a menstruating human, but so having like 30 to 60 grams of carbs before your session, again, in a softer or like liquid form would be super helpful to make sure those carbs are there ready for you. We talked a little bit about intra-WOD carbs before this. I think that's really important too, especially if you're doing like heart rate training work. If you have like too much fatigue or not enough carbohydrates in your diet, you're not going to be able to hold the heart rate you need to in your session.
Right.
So that's important. And then we can also talk about protein and carbohydrates after for repair, restoring, and all of those things. I don't know if you're looking like for specifics, but
just some feedback there. Real quick, you mentioned carbs both before and during, and I actually did a test for myself, and the audience may think this is interesting. I did a 20-minute C2 bike progression, and I ran through fasted, and I tested before twice fasted, tested before where I ate my normal meals before, and I had some carbs during, not a ton, but just my normal routine. And then I did it again after. So I tested twice in both, and it was like a 22% increase when I actually ate beforehand. And it was, like just the feel of that was completely different of how well I felt. My heart rate was a little bit higher, but I felt like I could sustain that. So obviously there is something there. And
on that
I agree with
same note, I did fasted training for a while. And when I got into it, I was like, man, I feel great. Like I did feel great. And I didn't feel like my energy was low, and I felt like I was doing everything great. And then eventually I just decided I didn't want to train fasted anymore, and I switched up my routine. And now I was eating before training. And then it was after that stark contrast where I thought I was feeling great. And then I went back to eating before training. I was like, oh shit, I was not thriving at all.
I feel great.
I was fine.
Just eat a banana, right? And you just feel so much better.
And
you're like,
different.
what have I been doing?
literally just that, and it's like a 2% increase or 3%.
Yeah. Well, even so, I do a lot of rowing and a lot of hard rowing intervals. And now I have a little bowl of fruit snacks next to me. And in between each interval, I just eat one or two. And it's just, even some of it I say is like a mental boost, like I have some sugar, I'm ready to do this. Just something little like that. I think people discount how beneficial it can be.
Sure. Especially when you're going hard. Maybe if you just did a really long and slow piece, which is what most people would recommend when you do fasted work, there's some research there. But for those that are in the CrossFit space, when is it ever long and slow? And even the long work is not slow. If you did a 60-minute test, you're still having to go extremely hard to be competitive in the sport, and I just don't think it makes sense.
Yeah. I actually heard like an analogy once, and it was really good. Like if we consider ourselves like a car, and it's like CrossFit there's like an energy system we use, and its fuel is carbohydrates only. It would be silly if we filled up our tank with steel. Right?
Yeah.
You need the gasoline to get us to go. So it's just like if you're not properly fueled,
can we test that?
Run.
Brandon, you want to put steel in your car?
I'm a Tesla. I plug into the wall.
You have a Tesla?
No, I don't. I was just trying to be funny.
Aren't you about to have one, Becky?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Not me. Adam
is.
Yeah.
Good
you
for
don't
him.
get to drive it?
I mean, I think I will have it's a phone key now,
You'll
right?
have the
I
key.
think I'll have it. I think I will be nervous to drive it.
Don't mess up.
Yeah.
It's autopilot, right?
Yeah,
Can't you just
I
press a
have
button?
no
and
idea. It's going to be like a spaceship
I
inside
know.
that
What
thing.
new car
looks
do
like.
you get to get?
I have my new car from however long ago. My SUV.
Yeah, my 4-year-old new car.
Yeah.
You should be like, Adam, it's time for me to get a new
Yeah,
car.
well, I'm so surprised. He got the car, and we're used to SUVs.
Yeah,
And I'm just gonna
yeah.
feel
You
so
should've got the
small.
truck.
Yeah, I don't know if I like how that looks.
I know they are like spaceshipy, aren't they?
Yeah.
And it's going to be like another 3 years before they come out.
Still?
Oh man, they keep delaying it over and over
That'll
and
be
over
your
again.
new car, Becky.
I guess if they make it look better.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of the look either,
No,
but they do
once
look
they're
cool.
out,
Or
you're
the
gonna
inside
want
looks cool. The inside looks amazing on those. All right, let's kind of change the corner or turn the corner a little bit and talk about the holidays, because this is what I'm selfishly most interested in, getting some feedback from you. My tendency is to eat relatively healthy throughout the year, but we go down and visit family, like either we're up with Jordan's family or we're down with my family. And let me just tell you, and this is not a knock on my mom, but she loves to cook some really bad food. Like she'll have the cinnamon rolls and all the other greasy food that's just like true Southern cooking. And there's no other option. So for me, it's like, well, I need to eat. Like I need some calories, and I start doing that. But if you're down there for a week and then you come back and it's Christmas and you're still eating bad, how do we manage those times of the year, especially for those that want to be competitive in the sport?
Yeah, I think the first thing, again, going back to successful tips for nutrition,
Yeah.
is being able to like plan ahead,
Yes.
right? You have to think ahead. This is what it's going to be like. And then tip number 2 is be realistic, So plan ahead. This is what it's going to be like. I know my mom makes food that, we used to have when we were younger all the time. Like that's how it is, right? I'm the same way.
Yeah.
Like we're half Italian, right? Like that's how we
Yeah.
just have it. That's fine. And I had a really hard time when I first was in the eating for performance and fueling my body and eating protein and healthy carbs, because that's not how my family does things. And it was so hard to be down there. And then, you grow and evolve and you kind of realize, okay, what is manageable? What can I do when I'm down there? I'll still enjoy it. Like we make ravioli at Christmas.
that sounds
Yeah.
amazing.
It's homemade. I'm not going to not eat that,
Right.
but maybe in the morning I make sure that I eat breakfast as usual. So
Yeah.
you have to plan ahead. You have to know what food is going to be available. And then you also have to be realistic about where can I make easy changes so that I'm still kind of eating. I can still be proud of myself, right? I can still be happy that I had my protein, but like I can also enjoy food because we want people to enjoy food at the holidays.
Yeah.
We don't want you to have to restrict yourself all the time.
Well, it's a special time too. You talk about like the ravioli. If you're helping your mom make the ravioli, like that's something that's like really special. You don't see your family as much. I do the same thing. Like it's sentimental, but like we'll cook stuff together and I'll sit down with my mom. That's an opportunity, for the first time all year to be able to do something with her. And so you want to enjoy that. But what are the actionable tips then? Like, is it, I just make my own breakfast and kind of stay away from what they're eating and then I'm going to be okay for dinner? Or like, what are the things that you would tell athletes to make sure they're doing?
Yeah, so if it's like a family dinner, you're going to, we have a solid game plan for that. Like you keep your breakfast relatively the same. Maybe at lunch, you only have lean protein and veggies so that you save your carbs and fats for that dinner. And then I usually tell them you're probably going to need like a protein-based snack before you go to the dinner because you're probably not going to get enough at the dinner.
Yep.
And I actually, one of my favorite pro tips about like gatherings is if there's not going to be something there to make your meal like a well-balanced meal, bring it as your dish to pass, right? Like, okay, we're going to a barbecue. Okay, there's probably not going to be a lean protein. I'm going to bring like shrimp cocktail. So I know I can put some on my plate and feel good about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. How important is balance in those situations? You talked about balance. Are you talking about like macros or like what does that mean to you?
I think definitely allowing yourself to have, like, thinking about the moments that matter to you. So if like cooking the raviolis with your mom is like really, truly special to you, like let's do that and let's have a good time and then make sure the rest of the day you're to plan. And like, so to switch gears here for like the competitive athletes who log in like MyFitnessPal for 365, I might say this is a really good time when you're going home this weekend to just maybe take a purposeful break in MyFitnessPal. Like nothing's going to go away. We already know like what should be on our plate. So let's use this time to like try to mindfully eat that way and then kind of see where we can fit things in and still stay on track.
Yeah. What would you say to the athlete that is like, you know what, I'm not going to eat any of it. Like I'm going to restrict everything. Like, is that a good or a bad decision?
I mean, that's what they want to do. Like, go for it. I do have some people who
Are super
are
strict.
like that. Yeah. And it's kind of like you have to pick your battles, so that's what you want to do. Go for it.
Have you ever done that?
Oh, yeah.
Willpowered your way through a whole Christmas or a whole holiday season?
Yeah,
For sure.
I think we all have. And then you just kind of realize, it is not worth it. It's so much work and I did not enjoy myself, and it was just a pain. But, you know, some people, they have goals, and this is what they're going to do to get to them. And that's fine too. You support them, but also long term is not a good way to live where you can't let go of MyFitnessPal for a day. So
yeah,
we got to work on that.
Well,
too.
I feel like that's going back to that whole, like, those are special moments with your family. And I don't know if anybody would ever regret taking off one day to be able to spend time with family and friends and enjoy that memory. It's not going to change anything in the long run. I think that the danger, though, is if you start doing that over and over and over.
Oh, that's where the trouble is,
Yeah.
right? Christmas Day turns into Christmas weekend, turns
it's
into,
the
it's
spiral,
New
not the
Year's.
day.
Yeah. So
Well, that's the thing, is it's a whole week of, like,
Right.
most people are traveling during that time, seeing family, and then New Year's, everyone's eating bad again, and it's like the first week in January becomes bad, and then it is a spiral.
Yeah. So again, it comes back to, you just got to do little things. And I try to have people maybe come up with 3 things, right? I feel like you can do 3 things pretty successfully. Like, what are the 3 things that will help you not completely go off track, but also allow you to enjoy time with your family? And
Right.
usually I help them, but one of the things is protein. Like, make sure you get your protein in, make sure that you're still moving, right? You don't have to go to the gym for 2 hours every day like you're used to, but just like get in daily activity, eat and go for a walk. And that way you're not continually eating. And then I have them like get a vegetable, right? Get some protein, get some vegetables at dinner. And if you are moving throughout the day, that was a successful trip. Because even 2 weeks, I mean, not completely going crazy for 2 weeks, but one day of crazy eating, 7 days of, all right, let's just be mindful, and then another day of crazy eating for New Year's Day, and then you're back on track. It's not going to mess you up as bad as you think it will. But where you'll get messed up is, oh, I wasn't perfect. This day's ruined. Let's just eat whatever. Oh, I feel awful. I'm not going to eat anything today. Oh, I'm really hungry the next day. Let's just eat everything. And then it's just this like downward spiral. So it's just be as consistent as you can be and be proud of that effort, and then back on track as soon as you can.
What would you say to the person that does that and then they get back in January and they're like, you know, Becky, Tracy, I screwed up. Like I made some big mistakes, and now the Open is in 7 weeks and I want to make quarterfinals, or I want to, you know, qualify for a semifinal. What do I do? Like, help me.
Yeah, I think it's just getting right back on track. I got that little pro tip from Becky. It's like, okay, well, we have to have like short-term memory loss. Like that's over with now. And today we just start with the next meal being better. But to Becky's point, I love coming up with like the goal setting of like 2 things to focus on while you're out of your kitchen, because even if that person says, I'm going to be perfect, I'm going to stay on track, it's going to be great, I think we both worked with enough people to know it's probably not going to go that way, maybe like a small percentage. So just having those 2 or 3 goals to back them up will have them coming home feeling successful. Like, okay, at least I did those 2 things we set no matter what.
Yeah.
Right.
That they're almost setting the expectations where they can actually,
them.
yeah.
And it's good. Like I usually go with 2, and I like to do one that I know they can do. Because it's like, okay, well, 50%, they got some momentum. They're doing that thing every day. And then the second one is maybe like, it's going to take a little more effort.
Yeah.
Right.
So obviously we're talking about the holidays, but in the CrossFit season, it's the holidays, and then you're like right into the Open season. So kind of turning gears and just talking about the CrossFit athlete. At what point, Becky, you mentioned earlier, they need more time than just a month or 2 months, right? At what point would you recommend someone start a plan for the next season?
Oh, man. Whenever their off season starts.
Yeah.
Right.
So like right away.
Yeah. I mean, it depends the level of CrossFit athlete, right?
Sure.
But everybody has weaknesses, and maybe you need to get stronger, so you need to eat appropriately. Maybe gymnastics are not as strong and you need to lose a little bit of weight, so you need to eat appropriately. And then as we transition into, I say fall, because that's kind of when our programming starts changing to be more focused on the Open and quarterfinals. You got to make sure that you're fueling enough, and you also have to experiment with fueling, because you can't just go into quarterfinals weekend and try like graham crackers after you train and have never done that before. So I like as long as possible, but I would say like I said, once your off season starts and you have goals of what you need to get better at in the off season, food needs to be adjusted.
Yeah. And a priority, right?
Yeah.
I also think a lot of times we get people that come to us in like January that are like, I need to lose like 10 pounds for the Open. And it's like, oh God, you're too late. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
you can, but I don't think that's the healthiest approach. I always tell people, if you're looking to like shed a little bit before your season, if that's something you need to do, like you want to have it done by by December, so that in January we're increasing your intake. Hopefully by the time your peak season comes around, you have as much food as possible without gaining weight.
Yeah. So how do you guys manage the athletes' training with their dietary needs? In other words, you guys are individualizing this. Are you looking daily at the athletes' training, or like, hey, send me your template, let me get a feel for how much volume and intensity you have, and then I'm going to adjust the macros or calories around that? Or is it more kind of based on feel?
Probably a little bit of both. You know, we're fortunate here with our train think tank athletes. You know, we can just ask you guys what's going on. I think that helps the athlete too. They don't have to be the middleman. Like, I don't really know what I'm doing, you know? So, yeah, I think some of it is by feel. If they consistently are starting to feel low energy, or, you know, they're not sleeping well, and we know like, well, your CrossFit is ramping up, so we have to give you more food. And then sometimes I will ask them what they're doing. And even with like compete athletes, it's easy because you can just see all of the training. So I really like working with those people too, because I have everything in front of me every day, but it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, I also love that we have access to all of our individual clients, like spreadsheets for the most part. I've asked a couple coaches, like, can I just be added in on the link so I can see? So I'll take a look at that. But I feel like I learn most about the person in that initial consult call. Like, I need to know like what kind of level athlete they are, in the sense like, are you peaking for the open or for quarterfinals or for the games, whatever that is, so that we can make sure their year structure looks right. And then we can see the details within their training and ask their coach, like, okay, are they in like a strength hypertrophy phase right now? Or are they like only working on engine gymnastics work? That all can play a factor. But I think that's one thing that sets us apart from other companies, is that we're literally working hand in hand with their training coach as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and we think long term too. Like, I have someone who just started with me. She's a master's athlete, but she is focusing for the games when she ages up into the next age group, and that's 3 years away. You know, I'm like, I am so glad that you're here.
Yeah.
Like, that kind of thing. I think people don't realize is they only focus on the short-term goal, but we try to focus on long-term. There's always something that we can be working on to help you get better. It's not just this 3 months of strength. It's what's 2 years down the road look like too. So for us, as early as possible, I don't know what that means, right? 2 years is good, you know, as early as possible. There's always something that we can do or tweak or change or have you work on to get you better.
Yeah. Having a long-term plan, I think, is the best pathway to success. But most people are, I'm going to wait until January of the Open. And then, I mean, we see that in training too, right? Like, people want to make these huge changes in a few weeks, and we all know that just isn't possible. Like, no matter how good you are, you can't make these drastic changes in a couple of weeks unless you've done it before. And it's just like, oh, I just need to learn a technique of a muscle up again. But that is, I think, something that when someone buys into it, then they buy into the long-term plan. But most people are just like on the edge of their seat, type A CrossFitters that just want to go all the time.
Yeah, and that's what's like so important about those purposeful breaks, whether it's for like the holiday season or you're in the start of your off season. Like, we want to keep you in it for as long as you can, because we care about you, the human, first before the athlete. So it's like, let's make sure you're healthy all of the time, and that we can keep your performance up, you know?
Yeah. Last thing about the holidays, that's usually a time where the CrossFitter, maybe that doesn't drink throughout the year, is drinking in the holidays, or maybe just a couple here or there, right, around Christmas. What do you say to that? And like, how do you manage, you talked about drinking calories. You're drinking a lot of calories when you're drinking alcohol.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I frame it, right?
Yeah.
Every drink is 30 grams of carbs. Think of it that way. That's where all your carbs go, is into that drink. And aside from just that side of it, but how do you sleep and how does it make you feel? And again, it's one of those things, you're an adult and you can make your decisions, but make your decision and then own it, and then don't be sad and feel bad the next day and feel guilty. I shouldn't have done that. It's just, you did it. Move on.
Yeah, and there's like some tips you can do with that too to make you feel successful, but like have a little bit of that balance. Like, maybe you go home for Christmas and you want to be able to have a glass of wine with your family because that's what you always do at dinner. And it's like, okay, well, let's make like a 2-drink max. And if you're there for 4 days, do you need 2 drinks every day that you're there? Maybe we do it 2 of the 4 days, just so that you like, give yourself the permission to have it, but you're not going so far off plan. You feel like it's so hard to get back.
Now, what if you wanted to like save all your alcohol to get really shit-faced on one day?
Oh, man.
What's your strategy?
Well, you just don't eat, and then you get shit-faced off of 3 drinks.
Pro tip.
That's
Strategy.
for you. That's for you.
Yeah, well,
I've never done that.
Chris is a professional at that one. Yeah, what do you say to the athlete that's maybe a drinker throughout the season? Like, you know, there are some people, not many, but they're like every weekend they're going to
So
have
for Brandon,
I could not do that. But for the person that's drinking, you know, weekly and trying to be competitive.
I think it depends on their goals, right? Like I always remind them. So like if you doing that, is that going to help you get closer or further away? And just remind them of that. And there might be like times of the year where it is more okay. Like they're off season, like you totally have time. And then the nice thing is we've worked with all like levels of athletes. So now we can say too, well, at the upper level, they're not doing this during their peak season. So that might be something to consider for the next couple of weeks if we have like quarterfinals coming up, you know, but do they have to completely restrict it all year? I don't think so.
Yeah, sometimes I'll say, well, just try it for 3 weeks and see how you feel. And sometimes I feel a lot better, and then, well, okay, maybe I don't need to do this all the time. Or sometimes they say, well, not really worth it.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
I can't sleep.
Yeah.
And I feel awful. Yeah.
So I'm like, I think with any kind of little change that I try to recommend, or changes that they want to try to implement, it's just try it out and see how you feel. But you have to try it out for longer than 2 days. You know, give it a couple weeks and see if it's worth it.
Cool. A couple other things I'm just interested in. So you guys talked about like, okay, here's some pro tips. So for the athlete that is going into the gym, what are some things like easy, I want to make a quick meal and be able to eat it, digest it, and get into the gym and train? Like, do you guys have those like kind of easy go-to meals that you guys would recommend? And then also like intra-workout carbs. What are the options that I have as an athlete?
I will do intra-workout carbs. Do you do meals?
I do carbs and I like snacky things. I don't do well with meals in between sessions. Like if I have 2, it just doesn't really sit well. Like anytime I've tried a bigger meal, I feel like I literally need a nap, and then it's hard to start that second session. So more like small and like bland colored carbs work really well for me in between.
Yeah, I tell people baby food pouches, applesauce pouches. I like fruit snacks. Some people get scared of sugar, but it's okay. It's all sugar, right?
Yeah.
It all ends up in the same place. Graham crackers, stuff that's easy to digest is where you want your carbs to be. And then you don't want any fat because that slows down your digestion. And protein is kind of up to the person. I don't really know a lot of people that will just like nosh on a chicken breast before they train. So
sounds good to me.
Protein bars or protein powder is probably where you want it to be. But I think the gist is easy to digest.
Yeah, sure.
around
Something
training.
that's easy and fast.
Yeah, and even with the protein, I think it's dependent on the person. Like, for example, for me, if I don't have like a little protein snack in between, it's just going to be really hard for me to hit my targets before and after my sessions, and it's a lot to get down. So it's like if I could just have, it just helps me like better equally distribute it throughout the day.
And then what about meal prepping? You know, you guys are giving these athletes numbers that they have to hit. Is it recommended that, hey, every Sunday you probably should plan out your week, or are you guys okay with people kind of winging it throughout the day?
I don't know. I mean, you go back to habits. If it's hard to do a new habit, but once you get it, it's easy. So that's kind of where I go with meal prep is just give yourself an hour and see what you can get done. And then eventually the hour turns into 45 minutes and it's not as long. We're all kind of fortunate in that we can be at home to make our food every day. So that's what I do. I don't really meal prep anything. Maybe once or twice a week I'll make a big thing of like ground turkey and veggies and eat that. But I think for most people who have commitments during the week and during the day, just taking that little bit of time on a Sunday, again, it's like protein is the hardest part. So just make sure you have stuff that's easy, right? You want to make your life easier so that you're not stuck at the end of the day with nothing.
And then snacking.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I frame it is we're trying to set you up for success during the week. It's a new habit. It's going to take a little bit of time for you to get it down, but literally just have a protein, stick some stuff in the oven, maybe have rice going in the rice cooker. That you can get that done. Just the bare minimum that you need to do to be a little bit more successful.
Yeah, and I think protein takes the longest to cook usually, and I don't know about you guys, but when I get home from training, I am not waiting around for my freaking chicken.
Yes.
So it's like, if you can just have at least the protein set up, and I always recommend cooking your food in bulk because it's much easier to just like pull what you need for the day versus like, God bless those people doing individual meals. I think they get disgusting. I think they get like, I don't want it by day 2. So it's just like, by keeping them separate, it's like you can make a new meal every time almost too.
For sure. All right. So what about the person that doesn't meal prep, that's busy at work, and their coworkers are like, hey, let's go out to eat? Like, how do you manage those situations where you have to go to a place that only has so many things on the menu and then choose what's right for you?
I mean, again, protein is number one. Try to pick something lean-ish protein. I tell them, don't be afraid to be that guy and ask for steamed vegetables or something. It's not, I mean, don't try to modify the entire meal, but you can ask here and there.
Yeah.
And also, look ahead and see what's on the menu before you go.
Yeah, and when I usually start out with anyone, we talk about the basics first, regardless if they've been doing this for 4 years or for 4 days. We're going to talk about what does it take to make a whole balanced meal. And the reason I do that, even though it's like probably annoying for them at first because they're like, okay, this is 101. But it's like, okay, but now you're going to know what to look for on the menu when you go out. And in the all-in nutrition coaching, we offer full access to us. So like, on your check-ins, or like say you find out Wednesday you're going out to dinner Friday night, like text us the link to the menu, tell us what you'd like to have, and we'll help you figure out how to order it. And like, you won't need to do that every time, but the first couple times, why not use that part of the service to help you learn how to do it on your own?
Right.
The bigger enemy is those chips and that free bread.
You're not
You can
kidding.
say, no, thank you. But also, Precision Nutrition has a really good plate example. There's what USDA My Plate, but Precision Nutrition has a different version, and you kind of look at it as portion size that way instead of like, oh man, do I have 6 grams of protein or do I have 8? It's
Sure.
just look at how it is on your plate.
Like the size of it.
Visual. Yeah, I think that is helpful too.
Cool. So what is a balanced meal? Tracy, you keep saying that. Like, just give us like a very basic overview of what that would look like.
Yeah, I think it needs to have protein, carb, fat, veg, and bonus points if you got enough fiber on there from the vegetables, or maybe you need to add something else in.
Yeah.
But to me, that it should hold you over, if it's size appropriate, for like 4 to 6 hours.
So you're telling me that I can't eat until the 4 to 6 hours is up?
No, you can, but usually it tells me there was something missing on your plate.
Yeah. If you're hungry in an hour,
then
that's
either
probably a
wasn't-
good indicator that it was empty food.
Yeah, not big enough portions, or just like something was missing.
Yeah. What about the person that is, like, again, they're busy throughout the day. This happens to me all the time. I'll eat a breakfast and then I won't eat lunch until 3 or 4 p.m. when I get home that day. Like, how bad is that for the person?
Man, you're just going to want to eat everything at that point. Yeah. I have people set alarms on their phone like 3 hours after breakfast, bring a protein bar. And I think this is applicable to gym owners and like coaches at gyms. You're one class after another, boom, boom, boom. Just have graham cracker box in the locker or something like that. Just, you got to try to eat something. It doesn't have to be a lot, but it's real bad when you get 5-6 hours down the road and you're literally going to want to eat.
So what I'm hearing is there's nothing wrong that you delayed that meal. It's that the chances of you doing well according to your own goal is going to go out the window because now you're hungry and you're just going to be ravenous.
Yes.
It is the snacking that happens then.
Yeah.
Right? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. It's
Or overeating at that next meal.
Yeah.
Or eating something that
pushing your
wouldn't make you
standards
feel
aside
good.
because you're so hungry.
Your body likes consistency. That's why we say eat the same every day, whether you are resting or training. And it's also not necessarily eat the same time every day, but your body, if you do that, your body kind of starts to expect food. And I feel like when your body knows it's going to get enough and it knows when it's going to get enough, it feels, I say it's safe. That's like a hippie thing. Your body feels safe, but then it's not stressed. It's not like, when is my next meal going to be? You don't have to expend energy worrying about, am I going to get enough food? You can put it into training. You can put it into playing with your kids. You can put it into yard work. So giving your body food at regular intervals, whatever that looks like for you, it just ends up, your body starts to expect it. And it's like, okay, I'm in a good place. I'm not running from the bear.
Yeah. And I think having those like emergency backups is what I always call them. Like whether it's keeping something in your car, whether it's like a blender bottle with like protein powder and like some nuts, or whether it's like protein bars, or I tell people too, if you run out of meal prep, you should have emergency backups in your freezer, like pre-made meats, microwavable rice, frozen veggies. because I'm not going to the store twice in 1 week.
Right.
So it's like, if I run out, I need to know that I'm like going to be set and it's not going to take a long time to cook my meal.
Yeah. All I could think about is having something in my car is the melted protein bar that's in my center console that I can't eat. It is just, it's disgusting when you open it up.
That's when you need some graham crackers.
I'm licking off the wrapper.
Don't do that.
I'm like,
That's why I like when it gets cold, because then you can leave stuff in
I
your car.
agree.
And it's okay.
yeah, no, you're totally right.
Yeah.
All right. I asked you what like the go-to pre-workout meal is, but let's zoom out a little bit, just kind of finish this and wrap it all up. What would your go-to meal be just in general for the average athlete? Like if you're meal prepping, what are the things that you would like to see? I know you obviously talked about the balanced plate, but like what would you recommend?
Like an easy one for me, like I don't really like, I'm not a good cook. So like I have the microwavable rice. I usually like saute up ground beef or like pan fry a salmon real quick.
Sweet.
And then add in all the frozen veggies. And I can't eat boring dry food. It has to taste good. So I like a lot of seasoning, and I'll put a little bit of some type of sauce on there just to make it feel like a different meal, because I'm typically eating around the same things.
Yeah.
So
if you have salmon 3 days in a row, it'll be seasoned differently each time.
Right, exactly. Just to like make it feel like something different to look forward to. And I just say like, measure out the sauce, because usually you can have
What's
a
your
heavy hand with
go-to frozen vegetable?
that. Ooh, probably green beans.
Not a fan.
Okay.
Just lame. I have you guys? Costco has these giant bags.
Dang,
That's
shots
just like
fired.
mixed.
I know. I'm like, okay.
She's like, all right, we're done.
What's your go-to frozen vegetable?
Well, I was saying it. It's like a 10-pound bag at Costco. That's all the mixed vegetables. Like,
I saw that once. It was misplaced, and then I could never find where it was actually at.
It is fantastic. They did, the
What
green
section
beans
is
are
it
in
in?
there, so I do eat the green
Beans are
beans.
fire.
Yeah.
Ask Kyle Habdo. He loves them too.
Okay, good for him.
Kyle does like green beans. Though,
Green
doesn't
beans
he?
like every meal.
Yeah.
Really?
What is yours, Becky?
There is this mashed cauliflower. It's by Bird's Eye, and it's a roasted garlic flavor.
That is
and
good.
you put it in the microwave, and I swear it tastes just like mashed potatoes. So I'll do my ground turkey. Kroger, shout out to Kroger. They have so many pre-cut vegetables that I probably buy 8 packs of those.
Just
in a
like
week.
in a can or in the frozen?
It's in the produce section, and it's clear containers, and they have squash and onions. They have a stir
okay,
fry
yeah.
Oh, yeah, I
mix.
love that.
They have a fajita mix. I mean,
Yeah.
you're paying for the prep, which to me is 100% worth it. But I do ground turkey, some squash and onion, and then the mashed cauliflower, and it just looks gross, but it's so easy and it tastes really, really good.
Nice.
The Bird's Eye brand has some great
Yes.
packaged veggies.
Yes, I am a frozen vegetable person.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what Tracy said. Like, I would rather you eat a frozen vegetable than not eat a fresh vegetable because it's a pain in the butt to cut, Like,
Yeah.
dunk it in ranch. Eat your vegetables.
Whatever you have to do.
What's your
Yeah.
favorite fats?
Ooh, I'm a huge Kerrygold butter fan.
Like just straight up, or you just
I mean, I'm putting it on in like everything.
nice?
I'm not really a fat person. I am a carb person.
Or
You don't have a
guac.
favorite
Come
fat?
on.
no, not
Peanut butter,
really.
just give it.
Oh,
I will eat a whole.
I guess peanut butter.
I was
Peanut
gonna
butter does not agree with me anymore in my old age.
You're almost 40 age.
You know what it is? Is probably, well, I guess, those frosted animal crackers with the little like sprinkles on them? Those probably have a lot of fat. So I guess that, or Nilla wafers.
Yeah.
So carbs.
Yeah, the Nilla wafer.
Carbs with some fat. Yeah.
There's fat in the carbs,
Yeah,
okay?
I will not like pound an avocado or anything like that.
Man, I think, I always tell Tracy this, that I love carbs, but I think I love fats too. I actually just love food.
It's
Like,
the
give me a
fat
steak,
and carbs, yeah.
give me butter, I'll eat the chunks of butter by itself. I don't care.
I'm a fats fan too. Everyone's like, "Oh my god, carbs." I'm like, "They're fine. We have enough always." I feel like I'm like, I want more fats.
I'm like, there's no such thing as enough carbs. What is that like?
That's not true. When I go high carb, I'm like, I can't do this. Like, I'm done.
It takes a lot of
I
work.
don't want to eat anymore.
All right, let's get you guys off track just a little bit to finish. I know I already said that.
He
but
likes weird
Yeah.
questions at the
Oh,
end.
God.
this is just one weird question. So that was your balance meal, and actually was that your balance meal? Talking about
My ground turkey, cut up veggies,
Yeah.
and then something that's a little bit more carby, whether it's the cauliflower or, they do like
Sure.
pre-cut sweet potatoes too. That's easy. Rice.
What would your go-to? This is like your final meal. All right. You get it one time. What would it be? It can be
Pancakes.
bad. Yeah. Okay.
Pancakes.
Macaroni and cheese. homemade.
Wait, y'all just both picked one item.
That's true.
That's all your meal's going to be.
The lamest
That's
meal.
all I need.
I would do pancakes too, though. I love it.
Pancakes, yeah.
What do you put? Just regular like maple syrup on it, or
Adam and I, we go to Another Broken Egg every Thursday.
yes.
That's our Adam and Becky time.
I
And
will
I get
meet
the
you there.
same thing as 3 pancakes and syrup. I don't like the little butter thing, so I had to get rid of that. But then they have really good chicken sausage too. But pancakes and syrup.
I love pancakes. And the mac
I
and
like
cheese.
pancakes, but yeah.
You'd go mac and cheese.
Messes me
What?
up.
Now,
Here's
what
the
do you
thing.
feel about waffles, everybody?
I'm
Crispy.
okay.
Waffles
Yeah.
are good.
Yeah, I like
Belgian,
waffles.
but crispy and then fluffy on the inside.
Ooh,
Just
do we
on the
like
outside.
French toast? Is French toast
French
okay
toast
too?
is
French
yeah.
toast. Give me all the
Yeah, I
breakfast
guess that's
food.
breakfast food. Carby breakfast food
Yes.
would be my. I would just add all of it.
What's y'all's
yeah.
favorite cereal?
Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
That's
Yeah,
pretty good. That's
probably.
pretty good.
Do you know that they make cinnamon toast crunch cinnamon roll cereal? Have you seen that?
No, but I've
It's-
also seen they made a peanut butter flavor.
It's little
once.
cinnamon
Ooh,
rolls.
that was awesome.
Brandon, what's your favorite cereal?
It may be Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
3 Cinnamon Toast Crunchers?
I love it. Yeah, it's really good.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's your favorite, Chris?
Frosted Flakes.
No, what's the Reese's one?
Reese's Puffs.
Oh yeah.
Reese's Puffs, yeah.
Ooh,
Okay.
Those
maybe
are
like
okay,
a
but they
Sharp.
hurt
It's
the
too
top of
much.
my
Yeah,
mouth.
you can't eat them too much.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cereals that do that.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah. Dude, Captain Crunch, I don't know how
I was
any
gonna
of
say.
that.
Captain
Yeah,
Crunch
it
is like
creates
that, yeah.
awful. You gotta like let it get soggy, and then it's not good.
Yeah.
Well, all right, ladies. Where can everyone find you, and where can they find the nutrition info on our website?
I don't know the link, but there's
Big word that says
the
nutrition.
big word that says nutrition.
Yeah.
You click on it, and we have Instagram, which is nutrition.ttt.
Yep.
And then each of us, I'm B Rogers _TTT.
And I'm Tracy Tucker _TTT. And both of our handles are listed on the nutrition Instagram account as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.